Why do I feel lonely even when I'm around people? Is a wonderful question. Wonderful question. I think a lot of us can relate to the emotion that this person feels. It's easy to feel lonely. And this isn't something that is new. This isn't just because of COVID. This isn't just because of the invention of the cell phone. People have been feeling lonelier and lonelier since the 1990s. In fact, let's see, Dan Cox, I have his title. He's from the Survey Center on American Life. He has coined the phrase that we are in a friendship recession. Now he says 46% of Americans claim to feel alone. And 43% say their friendships aren't meaningful. Basically, 43% of people with friends feel like they have fake friends. And just about 1 in every 2 people feel alone. And these numbers have been growing and growing since the 1990s. In 1990, 55% of men said that they had 6 close friends. Men, think in your mind, who are your closest friends? Number them. 27% of men say that they have 6 close friends. So that means 3/4 of men don't have 6 close friends. And in 1990, only 3% said, I have 0 friends. And that has multiplied by 5 times now. 15% of men say they have 0 friends. This isn't COVID. This isn't the iPhone. This is the trajectory we have been on for the last 35 years. And unless something different takes place, we will continue down this trajectory, and the events will only push it farther and farther along. COVID might have exacerbated a problem, but the problem was already there. Our connectedness through technology might have made it easier for us to isolate ourselves, but it was only exacerbating a problem that was already there. The problem with loneliness is that it feeds loneliness. When you are lonely, you do the exact opposite of what you need to do in order to stop being lonely. Isn't it? You know this is true. I'm sure we have all felt lonely before. What do you feel like doing whenever you're lonely?
Isolating.
Isolating. Thank you, Janice. You feel like isolating. You feel like staying in bed longer. All you want to do is sleep. All you want to do is just kind of maybe eat alone. All we want to do is watch TV. All these things that just feed that loneliness problem in our life. First point, loneliness leads to a lack of involvement. Loneliness will push you to uninvolve yourself. And whenever you have probably a family member that you're talking to, and they say that they feel lonely because your friend, the friend wouldn't be reaching out if they felt lonely. And so family, you're kind of stuck with them. Maybe you see them at Sunday lunch, or you see them at a get-together. Oh, I'm just feeling lonely. And it's just like, why don't all the lonely people call each other? You know all these people who claim to be lonely, and you're just like, all right, well, if all the lonely people got together, no one would be lonely. But it feeds it. It feeds itself. This is even what the Bible says. The Bible is full of so much immense wisdom and reflection upon life. Proverbs, he says, one who isolates himself pursues selfish desire. He rebels against all sound judgment. And remember every single summer, whenever I was growing up, my circadian rhythm is a delicate little butterfly. And I would start slowly, I would go from reluctantly waking up at 7:30 for school in May, and then I would continue staying up later and later and later until I am sleeping the whole day away and I'm up all night long. And by August, I would be miserable because I would have seen no one for the last 2 months. I wouldn't have seen my family. I wouldn't see my friends. I wouldn't see anybody because I had not intentionally pursued selfish desire. This is not that the one who isolates himself consciously thinks, you know what I'll do? I will remove myself from society so that way I can pursue these things that I really love more than anything else. That's not what we're thinking. We're thinking, oh man, it's nice to sleep in a little bit. It's nice to get away for a little bit. It's nice to just be me and my wife for a little bit. And then these things build and snowball. And then you're wondering why does nobody call me anymore? Why does nobody text me anymore? Why am I just not hearing from anybody? Well, maybe 3 months ago, somebody reached out and they wanted to do something, and you said, oh, we're just hanging out tonight. And so then the friend thought, okay, well, they said no this time, so next time when they want to do something, they'll reach out. And this is just the way life works. We end up snowballing ourselves into loneliness. And then when we're in loneliness, because of the way our brains work, we tell ourselves, well, you're even alone in the way you feel. You are alone in your loneliness. And our logic starts to make us rebel against common sense. That's what I think it's the Common English Version literally says. Rebels against common sense. The best thing you can do when you are lonely is do the opposite of the thing that you think you need to do. So if loneliness leads to a lack of involvement, then involvement overcomes loneliness. Involvement overcomes loneliness. Whenever you are in that pit, when you are in the prison, I don't know, that's what loneliness feels like. It feels like you have been put in a jail cell, and although you can see people on the other side of the bars, you can't get to them. You can't connect with them. You can't feel the love and the presence of those other people. So the thing that you do is reach out. If loneliness makes you want to pull away, the thing you do is you put yourself out there. You commit, you get involved, you do the things that are going to grow your circle. Dan Cox also said, I don't have this on a slide, but he said the more close friends you have, the more likely you are to talk to strangers in the neighborhood, to volunteer, to go to church, to frequent places where you will meet people. The snowball works both ways. When you are reaching out and you get that one friend, then that friend gets you connected with another friend. That person connects you with other people. And then all of a sudden you're like, man, I forgot how much I enjoyed people. And the scientific research shows that whenever you are lonely, you are more likely to develop dementia. You are more likely to have high blood pressure. You're more likely to develop diabetes. You're more likely to die from everything than those who are survey said that in every area of life, every type of American, white, black, married, single, high income, low income, it didn't matter what demographic group you were a part of. People now have less friends than they used to, except for one group. Except for one group in all of America, friendships are declining. Do you guys know what one group it isn't declining in? The church. The church is about relationships. The church is the catalyst to the snowballs. And so let's look at Acts chapter 2, verses 42 through 47. It says, "And they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship, to the breaking of bread." And that is up to discussion, the breaking of bread. It could mean the breaking of bread, communion. But it can also mean, as we'll see, that the breaking of bread might just be that they ate together. That they involved each other in each other's lives. That they would gather together and just have meals. And so it says, into the breaking of bread and the prayers, as in they were praying for one another. Verse 43. "And all came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were" what? Together. And had all things in common. They were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. And day by day, attending the temple, what?
Together.
And breaking bread in their homes. They received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. Not only was he adding to their number day by day those who were being saved, he was adding to their number day by day to the snowball of relationships that we were meant to have. Adam was made in the garden. Flies won't have relationships. Adam was in the garden. And he was the only thing that God said was not good. Because it was just Adam. And we all know that involvement doesn't, period, full stop, end loneliness. Because if it was that easy, then everybody right here, right now, would not feel at all alone. Everybody who was a part of BBS, who was surrounded by 40 children, and I haven't added up everybody, but probably at least 20 to 25 volunteers. Every distraction possible today. No one would be feeling lonely. But it isn't just involvement. What in verse 42, pull that back up a little bit. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship. And the word fellowship is koinonia. Koinonia. It is this. Write this down. This is also a third point. Fellowship is those gathered together for a unified purpose. Gathered together for a unified purpose. Because let's say you can involve yourself in the lives of others. Sometimes they don't like that, right? Or whenever you say you're involving your life with someone else, sometimes that creates the thought of, well, you're sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Or maybe you're getting involved because you have an agenda. You have a motivation. Maybe you want something from the other person. Maybe you're going to use the other person. But fellowship requires that you and the other group of people or the other person are unified in your purpose. The Bible says, weep with those who weep, rejoice with those who are rejoicing. And that's because community can double joy. Whenever you get to experience something good and someone you share it with is just like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you. It isn't that they're taking any happiness away from you. It's that together you are getting to explode with happiness. But whenever you're going through a hard time, when you're going through difficulty, and you share it with someone else, and that person just is there with you, it's not that the burden gets twice as heavy, it's that the burden gets twice as light. So with people, joy is doubled and trouble is halved. And the best thing that Job's friends did in the book of Job was sit there silently for days with Job. They didn't say anything. They just were there. It was really whenever Job's friends started chiming in and trying to play the Holy Spirit. Oh, Job, this is what you must have done. Job, this is what you got to do. Then the trouble was multiplied. Sometimes people just need to know that you're there. Sometimes people just need to know that, hey, whatever you have going on is important to me. And it's important enough that I'm not going to try to step on your toes. It's not important. It's whatever you need, I'm here for you, whatever your purpose is. And sometimes you put your own agenda and sometimes you put your own thoughts and feelings and motivations aside and you just say, hey, whatever you have going on right now, I'm all about it. Friday, we poured a 12,500 square foot floor. And I was all about it. I was unified with Case's purpose. We had wonderful fellowship. I said, whatever, running from task to task. Knowing later on I had VBS. But I knew that I could give my all to the task that was necessary in that moment. I could fellowship with Case. Because I knew, first of all, I had fellowship with God. That if God's purpose is for this floor to go this way, I can trust him and I'm going to give my best. But also I knew that I had fellowship waiting for me here. That I had plenty of people who their sole purpose was, I want the kids to have a wonderful time getting to know Jesus. Getting to know that God has a plan for them and that they can trust him. And so I had to remind myself, God has a plan and I can trust him. Sometimes we think we need it to be all about what we have going on. Sometimes what we have going on is really important. Sometimes, though, we have to just set that aside. Sometimes we have to say, all right, I'm here for you today. I'm here for you for the next 8 minutes. Has everybody seen or heard of The Lord of the Rings? Mm-hmm. The Lord of the Rings, the first one is called The Fellowship of the Ring. And Tolkien was a Christian man. And he was good friends with C.S. Lewis, which I did a sermon on back in November. C.S. Lewis, also a Christian man. Everyone told Tolkien, this is a stupid idea. Nobody wants, why are you coming up with a language? What's up with these talking trees? Why giant eagles? But there was one person who believed in it. One person who was interested in his ideas. C.S. Lewis. Which, of course, C.S. Lewis would be interested in it. You know, he's got books with talking animals and ships and everything else, but Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings to be an image of the Christian life. And in that first movie, I've got a picture here. Frodo leaves early one morning with the ring. And he starts rowing his boat, and Sam discovers it. And Frodo yells, "Go back, Sam, go back!" And Sam's like, "No, Mr. Frodo, I'm coming too." And he goes, "No, I have to go to Mordor alone." And Sam says the most wonderful thing back. Sometimes we think we have to go through something alone. And Sam says, "Of course you are. And I'm coming with you." Of course you are. And I'm coming with you. Yes, it was Frodo's mission. It was Frodo's calling. It was Frodo's burden. Only he could bear it. Only he could take it to Mordor. So in a sense, he was doing it alone. Never thought I'd cry about Lord of the Rings. He was going alone, but Sam was with him. And that's how we have a strong fellowship. Is that people have their own callings. People have their own journeys. People have their own things that they're going to have to deal with. But because of generous individuals, nobody has to go alone. That's our last point today. A strong fellowship comes from generous individuals. If you're willing to put yourself aside for what other people are going through, you will never be alone. You might feel lonely sometimes, but we know that the truth isn't based on feelings. We know that the truth is Jesus Christ put himself second. Even on the night whenever he tells his disciples, "You sit here and pray, and I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to sit, and I'm going to pray." And he has to get onto them 3 times because they keep falling asleep. Even in that moment, whenever Christ is putting himself 100% second, and he's talking to his disciples, and he says, "Come on." He's still putting himself. He's putting himself 3rd, 4th, 5th. But 3 days later, Christ is elevated to a point that he couldn't have ever reached if he would have ran from his calling. Frodo couldn't have destroyed the ring if he would have ran from his calling. In the end, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the 4-hour last movie of The Lord of the Rings yet, I doubt you ever will. But Frodo ends up being carried by Sam into the volcano. A lot of roads are crossing today. It's been an exhausting week. time of a lot of lack of sleep and also I've got a migraine today. But thank you guys so much. We love you. Because none of this too. You know, we talked a little bit in Sunday school about how generations will be changed. And really, when we do put ourselves second, you know, these 40 kids, they might not remember our names, but things will probably be different in their lives because of what they got to see. And that's what it's about. And you won't ever realize how much you can put yourself second until you just do. You know? I wouldn't have got up here and done this if it wasn't for just knowing that I needed to for God. And God has a plan and I can trust him. And so I had this message and I'm like, well, I'm not going to just tell everybody to go home. Because if God's going to give me a migraine on Sunday morning, he's going to want me to preach with a migraine on Sunday morning. Because a strong fellowship comes from people who put themselves second. And I would never ask you guys to do anything that I wouldn't be willing to do. This was Dan Cox's conclusion to this survey. The people who make a community strong and vibrant are the people with lots of friends. They're the ones who go to the meetings. They're the ones who go to the... They're the ones who go. They're the ones who do. They're the ones who set their schedules aside to make sure that the community needs are put forward. And this is exactly what Christ did for each of us. In order to have deep and meaningful connections, it can't always be about my needs. It can't always be about what we think we need to do in the moment. Christ is the main character of life. He holds it all together. He sustains it. And if you want to experience life, you have to be willing to look like Christ. You have to be willing to turn to Christ. And today the call is the same as it always is. Will you follow him? In your handouts, we've got a bunch of different ways to follow him, guys. Under next step, you can say, I want to know more about turning my life over to Christ. You can say, I want to be added to the prayer and news call. I want to become a member of the church. I want to be trained in. And you get to choose what you want to be trained in. Please don't ask to be trained to be a fireman, because I don't know how to do that. Wherever you are in Christ right now, you don't have to go alone. You can come talk to any of us here, and we'll come alongside you. We'll pray for you. We will be a part of your life. We'll do whatever we need to do. Because that's what Christ did. He died for you. He died for you. And all he's asking is, will you follow? Let's go ahead and stand. Father God, we just thank you so much for the lengths that you were willing to go for us. Thank you so much for being an example and not just a leader that demands and demands and demands, but God, that you are a God who gives, that you hold nothing back, that you are willing to go to extremes for us, God. And we just pray that we will have the courage and the faith to follow you and to follow your example and to really walk alongside our brothers and sisters, God. Thank you for a family that wasn't built with blood, but a family that was built on your blood and your sacrifice. And I just pray that we can all unify together to accomplish your will. It's in Jesus' wonderful name we pray. Amen.